Okay, next up, it's college hoops time again, part 2 of our Sweet 16 preview on the College Corner.
College Corner.
4 more games on Friday evening here, and we'll do the same thing we did on Tuesday's show. We'll just pull up the Dimers Predictions Hub and take a deeper dive into each of these 4 games. I will say, relative to Thursday, the odds makers have done a pretty locked-in job here. There are some pretty spot-on pregame spreads here that do not leave nearly as many sizable best bet edge value opportunities that we saw on the first day. But again, these lines can move. Always make sure you're checking back in real time on the Dimers site in Dimers Pro to see how the value has changed. Sometimes you go from something that shows no edge to a pretty significant edge all within a matter of minutes based on how the markets move. And the best part is Dimers model updates in real time, so it reflects whatever the latest odds are that you can get. For now, though, let's just jump into the Predictions Hub and take a look at Friday's 4 games, starting with that St. John's Duke game there in the top left. Couple things to note from me in this one. Duke is getting healthier. They played the entire ACC tournament and the beginning portion of this NCAA tournament last week without their starting center, Pat Ngungba, and without their starting point guard, Caleb Foster. Now, they are the number 1 seed in this tournament for a reason. They have the best player in the country in Cameron Boozer, and they were able to get to this point, win the ACC tournament, and win 2 games in the NCAA tournament, despite having those injury concerns and despite Caleb Foster's absence really impacting things in the backcourt. The latest I've heard is that Ngungba is going to play against St. John's and that Caleb Foster is going to try and play. That was the terminology used. I will say no one expected this. The expectation coming into the tournament was that Foster's out the entire tournament with a season-ending injury. So he's a tough kid. Credit to him. If he is available, even if he's 50, 60%, that's a huge boost for morale to Duke and to the Duke backcourt that's pretty limited on paper. So as you can see in front of you here, Dimers likes Duke minus 6.5 with a reasonably high probability here at 55% and a 3% edge. I tend to lean that way as well. If Caleb Foster is going to be active, I think this would be Duke minus 8, maybe minus 8.5 if they were clearly at full strength, but you're getting a little bit of value if those guys are going to play. If not, this game can just swing in such a wildly different direction. St. John's is a team that presses full court. They're very physical. It's just a tough matchup on paper for Duke if they don't have their lead ball handler. Ultimately, I think Duke is the better side with or without Caleb Foster. Again, number 1 team in the country. They've earned that. They've won big high-pressure tournaments without Foster. So to me, it's all upside if he returns. Given the uncertainty for me personally, I'm staying away from it tonight, but I lean in alignment with the model, given that it sounds like the injury news is breaking Duke's way.
Yeah, and if that injury news is in fact breaking Duke's way, let me actually do a quick check here. What are their championship odds? Because they've held pretty steady, which I think is interesting. And I don't know if maybe they took a hit sort of in the book's mind from that first stumble, but they've held really steady. So if you did not get Duke in advance and you still like the model still has them as the favorite and you think they're going to, I can't find the futures. It's because of state restrictions. I have to sometimes search all around for this stuff. But last I checked, I'll just look at it right here. I have the website.
Yeah, I see them at plus 450 right now.
Yeah, that's right where they were. I think they were only 340 before the tournament. So you're getting a better price on them. And nothing was realistically changed bracket-wise for them, right? Just maybe they're getting healthy and maybe the perception of them changed slightly because of that first game. But overall,
if anything,
were you done with that game?
If anything, the 1 seed on their side of the draw, which they would have to beat in the Final Four, Florida lost. So if anything, their path has now gotten at least marginally easier than it was pre-tournament. Yeah, I mean, you just showed the futures values. I stand with the model on that. If there's one of the big 3, Arizona, Duke, and Michigan, that is the bet you should make right now, it is Duke. They're the second highest probability per the model, only 1% behind Arizona. You get plus 450 odds instead of plus 400 odds for Zona. And then Michigan, the betting favorite right now, interestingly enough, the model has third out of that group of three behind Arizona and Duke still. So I endorse that message. I would not touch Michigan at the current number. I really wouldn't touch Arizona at the current number. I see some value on the Blue Devils, and we'll see how much that changes if Caleb Foster just returns and is healthy tonight. Let's jump to the second game next. So I think we'll jump to Michigan, Alabama. And I got to tell you here, there's nothing I hate betting on or against more in college basketball than the Alabama Crimson Tide under Nate Oates. The reason is they play the most volatile brand of the sport that you can find. They are run and gun, shoot a million threes, and run the opponent off the three-point line. It's literally a math equation. It's 3 is more than 2, and we're going to shoot 30 more threes than you every game. And over the course of 40 minutes, that's going to work in our favor. Now, when Alabama has some of the best talent in the country, it's a great formula. When they have some holes, then it can sometimes lead to these dominant performance opponent wins against them where they lose by 35 and get ran out of the gym playing this erratic brand of basketball. If there's ever been a team that would be comfortable playing at a frantic pace, it is the Michigan Wolverines. Now, they're going to make you pay from 2. Michigan's front court is the best in the sport and is almost guaranteed to dominate the paint in this game. But it is an Alabama team that doesn't even really want to go into the paint. They just want to bomb you from 3. So, look, in terms of prognosticating this, to me, one of 2 things happen. Either Alabama makes all their threes, this game comes down to the wire, they potentially win, or Alabama doesn't make their threes and Michigan just obliterates them. For me, it's not a comfortable strategy to bet on or against the luck involved in 3-point variance. One thing that I would say works against Alabama here, Aiden Holloway, their second best player, definitely the second scariest perimeter star on this team, is no longer with the team. He got expelled for some not great off the court things just a week ago, right before this tournament began. Yeah. So the vibes alone make me think that Michigan will be able to handle this. As you can see, the Dimers model does show a 55% probability of Michigan covering 8.5, but there is no significant edge here. You even see Alabama win on our best bets page right now, but it has a negative edge. I can't in good conscience recommend any side of this game, but my gut tells me that Michigan will find a way to win by double figures.
Nice. Very astute analysis. I like that when you're like, this is really what I feel, but it's a dangerous spot and it's hard. I mean, I was kind of banking on Alabama being light-handed in my bracket, and it has not worked out thus far. I was like, oh, here we go. This is a prime upset. What was it, Texas Tech they played? And I thought that would come through for me, and it did not.
Well, it goes to show you, too, the brand of basketball is smart. I mean, even without Holloway, they have just ran through the first 2 rounds of this tournament because they've gotten hot from 3. And when they get hot from 3, they're really difficult to beat, even against the best teams in the country. I look at the Florida game they played earlier this year as a data point. Florida, a very similar team to Michigan. Ultimately, they've already been eliminated from this tournament, but they're constructed the same, defending national champs. Florida just rolled Alabama. Just one of the ugliest blowouts of the entire season. And I think that's likely to happen, but we shall see. Sorry, I had to clear my throat there.
Yeah, it happens. Been there more than once on this very show.
Let's get a little sip of stale coffee. Hopefully I get my voice back, Dave.
Yeah, because I can't talk to this one, even though it's UConn and my guys. I still need.
Oh, it's Michigan State. I'm back. I just needed to get a quick sip of stale coffee and get my rival on the screen, and now I'm good. All right, Michigan State, UConn. This is maybe the most interesting game of the Sweet 16 to me on paper. I think there's a wide range of outcomes, and I think it's going to be maybe the grimiest game, if that's an adjective I could use. These are 2 of the best coaches in NCAA history, Dan Hurley and Tom Izzo. They are just monsters, and they are guys with reputations for being people you fear at this point in the season, and for good reason. Dan Hurley's won 2 of the last 3 national championships. Tom Izzo's been to the second weekend, it seems, an infinite amount of times at this point. And they like each other. That hangs over this game. They played in an exhibition to open the season, and UConn won. But I think Michigan State may be playing better basketball right now, and Michigan State certainly has the best guard in this game in Jeremy Fears. Now, there are some injury concerns on the UConn side. Silas Demery is not 100%. He returned to the lineup in their second game in this tournament, and he did not look right at all, came off the bench and really looked hobbled. And it didn't get them. They were tied with UCLA with about 10 minutes left, and then they went on a flurry of shot making late to create separation. But something with the sniff test just doesn't sit right for me with UConn. And as much as Dan Hurley has been, the star of the sport from a coaching perspective these last 2 years, he also is 0-2 this year in games for a championship. They had the regular season finale to win the Big East. They lost to the worst Marquette team in a while, and then they lost in the Big East tournament championship against St. John's, a team they played for the third time that season in that game. He hasn't exactly solved this UConn team just yet, and I think Michigan State's toughness is the side that I'd rather side with in a game that will be physically brutal, but they're healthier. They're more physical at the backcourt spots, and I trust their seniors, Jackson Kohler and Carson Cooper in the front court, to hang with Terrace Reed. Don't forget, too, Terrace Reed, a guy, started his career at Michigan. These guys are familiar. He's in the same grade level as Kohler and Cooper. They've played multiple times in rivalry pressure situations with each other. I think that familiarity could favor the Michigan State front court a little bit, since there's two of them that have gone toe-to-toe with Terrace already. As you see, the Dimers model projects this to be a stalemate. I mean, can we get overtime? Can we bet on that right now? Honestly, I don't hate that. If you're like a cute prop better in this game, you can bet this game to go to overtime. And in fact, Dave, let me check what the odds are on that real quick.
Might be a fun little round robin for the game. 2 or 3, or well, not 2, obviously, maybe 3 or 4 games of the whole round.
Yeah, depending on where you go to bet, sometimes there's props on like closest winning margin of a day.
Yep.
And I think that's almost 2-1 if you were looking at that for this game. I'm going to see if there's overtime odds here. Don't let me down. I'm looking at DraftKings. It might be even more readily available in other spots.
Yeah, I can tell you, I'm, as a UConn fan, am like scared of this game, for all the reasons you pretty much just said, and Tom Izzo just being an absolute mainstay staple of the tournament. Those are just the spots that always historically give me pause for UConn. Sometimes and the team this year in particular, it feels like they don't quite have a fully take over the entire game type of player. So without that, it feels like if somebody doesn't, it's easier for the rest of the team to kind of come up short. But
yeah, I did find it's 8-1 for this game to go to overtime. I think I'm going to sprinkle that just because I fully envision this being a close game. And if Dimers gives me an exact score, tie, let's just lock that in. But I also am on Michigan State to win the game, full transparency. And you see that 55% probability at Michigan State plus 1.5.
I would be more inclined to just take the upset at that point too. I mean, yeah. So I think it being plus within 1 point is the smallest portion of this 54.8% probability that they cover. The rest of it is them winning. So I would be more comfortable taking that anyway, get the plus money rather than the plus 1.5.
Yep. I think that's good advice. All right. Let's go to the fourth and final game on Friday, the last game of the Sweet 16 to tip off. It is Iowa State and Tennessee. And coincidentally, Dave, there's injury concerns hanging over this game. Joshua Jefferson, who is the best player on Iowa State, one of the most dynamic, potent front court players in all of college basketball, was last seen in a boot on a scooter in the round of 32 after suffering what appeared to be a season-ending injury. Now, just like many of these other guys I'm talking about, they're saying he's going to tough it out. He is a game-time decision. It sounds like he is expecting to play in this game. Whether he will be 10% or 100%, I have no idea, but I am telling you this. Until I know what percent he is, I can't touch this game. He's just too good. And if he's not close to 100%, I think there's some value on the underdog here. Tennessee is a very dynamic defensive team. They're physical. They get after you. They force the action. and an Iowa State team that has really leaned on being a three-headed monster with Milan Momcilovic, Taman Lipsey, and Jefferson this year. If one of those heads is off, I think they're very uncomfortable. You saw them fall behind early to Kentucky in the round of 32 by 12, and then they blitzed them from there. But I think that said more about who Kentucky is necessarily than anything we learned about Iowa State without Jefferson. Tennessee's got a point guard in Jacoby Gillespie that I really believe in. But at the same time that I'm making this case for Tennessee, bottom line is this: if Jefferson says he's going to play, if he does play, now the value has swung in the other direction, because Iowa State at full strength would never be just 4.5-point favorites against Tennessee. So it's really a guessing game, and I wish it wasn't, because I'd love to come on here and give you real analysis on what side is the side to be on. But look, if you believe the reports that Jefferson is going to be active for this game, I think the Dimers projection of Iowa State minus 4.5 makes a lot of sense. Even if you aren't sure what percent healthy he is, just knowing he'll be out there, I feel like is enough. But for me, it's a stay away. I want to see this before we make any future bets in the Elite Eight.
Kind of feels like the model might be expecting him to play. I feel like with the strong probability, the over, also the most edges of all of these games you have in this one, which then kind of checks out, given that there's a significant factor kind of keeping things in limbo here. Kind of a classic case of, do you take the number early or wait for the most information? We get a lot of people ask us about that all the time. I wish there was a very easy answer for it. I often think it's better to have the information personally. That does depend on what side you're on. If you think Iowa State's good enough to still win this game, then maybe you take the 4.5 while it's here, because like you said, if he plays, they wouldn't, or if he was very healthy or 100%, they wouldn't be only 4.5-point favorites. So if you want the other side, you should probably wait, because if the spread gets better, then you don't want 4.5.
I think that's the right angle and the right way to play it. And look, the injury gods have not been kind to this sport this year. It's very frustrating. Fan of this, but at the same time, like, what we're basically laying out here is that there's risk involved. If you were trying to bet either side of the number right now, it's like, well, there's risk in what the outcome is. Look, you're sports betting. There's always risk, right? So sometimes these injury situations come with opportunity. And that is the one thing I would say when I stare at this page that's saying, hey, there's an edge on Iowa State. If Jefferson plays and he surprises everybody and is fully healthy, we'll look back on this as a silly number before the game.
Yep. Well put.
All right, there you have it. That is it for the Sweet 16. Of course, the way the tournament works, we will have the Elite Eight round complete by the next time you see an episode of this show. So next week, we'll be back with 2 episodes documenting our preview for the Final Four. I will be in Indianapolis on site. I can't wait for that. It should be fun. So plenty more in store. We'll probably do a deep dive in terms of props for those games next week, as well as there's a lot more ways to bet college hoops once you get down to the final finish line. But thank you, everybody, for following along with the College Corner this year. Make sure you subscribe to the Dimer Sports Betting Podcast so that you can get more of these renditions of all of my college sports picks, sourced, of course, by the wonderful Dimers Pro model.